The Bugs Bunny Halloween special has hit HBO Max, so of course you realize this means podcast.
Are you ready, eager young space cadets?
Meep, meep.
I saw a pussycat.
Long is the limit!
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Hello and welcome to, of course you realize this means podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Graves, and with me today, it is my honor to bring to you a TV personality on Spirit Squad, as well as a content creator in her own right. She is also on TikTok and a host of Something Scary over on YouTube. Please join me in welcoming Steffany Strange. Hi, Steffany.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, happy to have you. And we're doing video.
I know.
So this is a new realm. I'm going to try to do more video content with the podcast. So there will still be the audio version for everyone listening over on iTunes, Spotify, and all of the areas where you get your podcast. But you'll also have me on YouTube and wherever else this goes. So new frontier for sure. How are you doing, and what is your history with Halloween cartoons?
I'm doing good. Decorating, getting into the Halloween spirit. This is like my time. Love Halloween. So October is always a great month for me. And it's my birthday month. So it's just a win-win all around.
Awesome. Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. My history. So I want to say that my parents, they grew up with like Looney Tunes. Like, I think that's something that I can always tune into. And my parents will also watch with me versus like if I were to watch like the Powerpuff Girls or something on like Cartoon Network, they would probably not care as much. But Looney Tunes, I think, was something that was definitely pushed by like my older relatives. And it was always on the weekends on cable. And I grew up watching it. And then also my sister, she had a whole thing on Tweety Bird.
Cool.
In fact, I don't know if she wants me to share this, but I'm going to share it because it's my sister and that's what siblings do. She used to call her boyfriend Tweety Bird. So it's like kind of crushed for me because like we loved Tweety Bird and I now think of her ex-boyfriend. But I loved Tweety Bird, and I remember we had like the big stuffed animals and everything. They used to have them at the fair.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here in LA?
I think so. Yeah. For context, my sister, she was a 90s teenager. She was into that whole thing. And yeah, I remember she came home and she's like, look what I won. I'm like, that's really cool. So like the memories on that. Tweety Bird, different meanings.
I understand that completely. There are, annotations and, characters that we associate with certain people in our lives. And yeah, it's a really weird thing whenever, someone's doing a podcast that, hits those nerves or memories. But thank you for shouting out Cartoon Network. That's actually celebrating 30 years since its debut on Turner or TNT, and, how Cartoon Network came to be its own channel and started with Space Ghost and some retro cartoons such as Flintstones and Looney Tunes. And so congratulations to Cartoon Network for still being around. But I also want to send a thank you to whoever created Toonheads, because that kind of gave birth to my love of the animation history. So that like delved into different character backgrounds, like first appearances and, the history of some directors and everything behind the scenes. So that was really fun to watch as a kid, but also to, enjoy as an adult whenever I go back and watch reruns of that you can find on YouTube. And so I'm super grateful for Cartoon Network existing for sure.
I have a question. So you mentioned like this kind of sparked a lot of things for you. What was that first memory like? Because I can definitely think of like animations that I've watched as a kid, and I'm like, I am so inspired. I'm gonna try to draw this. And of course, it was never exactly like, but it got me down a inspiration path. What about you? Like when you first watch it, did you feel inspired of like wanting to recreate the drawings, or how did it make you feel?
Oh, so like whenever I was watching like the documentaries about like the original creators of
Mhm.
these things, it made me want to, I guess, read more about it, do more research, watch more cartoons, and just learn as much as possible, like turn into a sponge and just soak up everything. I did dabble in drawing, but I wasn't really good at it. So, I
Mm,
mean, I know drawing is like something you have to practice and like it's not something
yes.
that you're just like born with. I just wanted to watch, interact, play as, because like video games and everything were of the time, like in the 90s, there were a lot of Looney Tunes video games. And I just wanted to like, be surrounded by the characters as much as possible. And yeah, whenever I went to college, I actually had four directors that were inspiration for me. Because I went to film school, I had film directors, and Chuck Jones was definitely in that list. So, and
Oh,
that's one of the directors we're going to be talking about. And that's a good segue because the witch is back. We have Witch Hazel in the Looney Tunes cartoon special with a slew of other characters such as Porky, Sylvester, and Daffy, and of course Bugs Bunny, who's also, titling the special. And I could not be more happy with how they treated her, with how they gave her own short, which was apparently one of the creators' first initial ideas whenever they came to him and said, "Hey, what do you want to do? How do you want to bring these characters back?" And he was like, "Well, I love Witch Hazel, so we got to get her in there." And yeah, so just real quick, you watched the Witch Hazel short. Just your brief opinions. I want to give like a teaser of the special before we go into news and then come back to the special in our review.
yes. I watching that took me back in time. Of course, I loved it. It was like it took me back and made me feel like a kid again. And it
Yeah,
was just like, no, I didn't have to like, be philosophical with it. It was more of like, wow, this is such a cute, like, homage to things that I grew up watching. And also like it made me think of, I used to read Tales from the Crypt, the books. Like I have all the books, like not
I
the
love Tales from
show.
the Crypt.
Yeah. And I just like, okay, this is more of like a PG version of like the host, like the way she's like, I want, can I even say this? Can I, oh, we'll see. We'll see. But she was just kind of like wishing for something like,
Yeah,
I want to be uglier. And
yeah.
then I'm like, okay, that's so funny. And then, from there manifestation happens, right?
Right.
So I just was like, this kind of reminds me of like more of a PG version of the Tales from the Crypt host because of the jokes, the puns, and like the manifestation of things. That's
Truly. Yeah.
my connection to things for some reason. I just thought of that because when I think of someone that's funny and has like these really campy, funny jokes of like, ghoulish jokes, that just made me feel really happy. I don't know.
Or the brewmate line, because that's a really good pun as well. And that made me laugh because it's such a classic Witch Hazel thing to look at the audience, like wait for the laugh and then go on and do the thing. Yeah, I ate this up, and I thought the artistry behind it, the unique backgrounds, it felt like watercolor coming back,
Mhm.
and just the way that the character was drawn, Candy Milo's performance of the character, I just thought like all around, it was a really good outing for Witch Hazel, and I think a lot of fans are going to really appreciate the just the overall level of attention to detail with her, and the way that even whenever she like zooms out of a scene, you have the hairpins that follow her. I think it's just a really fun detail,
Yes.
but it just adds to that depth of like, oh, you're watching a character that obviously we haven't seen in this form in a
Mhm.
good 60 years, and like she's back, and that's a really
Yes.
important thing. So I'm really glad you liked
Yes.
it. And
No, I love that you pointed that out with the illustration too, because you're right. It did not feel overly CGI by any means. It made like I
yeah,
think that was part of the nostalgia too, where it was like, yes, you can tell it's been obviously, retouched to today and modern times. But when I watched it, I was like, okay, this doesn't feel like overly CGI. Whereas like, when I was watching the other like shorts and the cartoons and stuff like that, I did notice like a little bit of like a more modern thing, but that felt a lot more like you said, watercolor. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that touch. Yeah, it was really pretty. For me, I love that stuff. I like more hand-drawn, like
yeah.
old school cartoon illustrations.
A lot of throwback homages in that too. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just couldn't get enough of it. I need like an entire series like that looks like that. I think that would be fantastic. So because this is Halloween, we're going to talk about some scary things. And the first scary thing that is happening right now is Bye Bye Bunny was threatened. And for us Looney Tunes fans, we were very scared that this was a project that was not going to see the light of day. And we still don't know the status. All we know, and I will start from the beginning here, is that reports came off, or out rather, of layoffs, and the animation team was completely eradicated and, decimated. And we were all like heartbroken, and we were all, feeling for these animators and these artists, because that is again like a huge project to be a part of. That must have been really exciting from the onset, and to have that ripped away, I can't even imagine how that feels. But it's not all lost, because the showrunner took to Twitter and kind of gave a little bit of hope back. I wanted to just read what the tweet said, so that way I don't misspeak for anybody. Um, Michael Herrera is the active showrunner, and he said this movie thrives with the humor of the writer Ariel Dumas, who we've covered on the show. She is a writer for the Colbert Report, and she's just a very funny individual on social media, and I can't wait to see what she comes up with for this plot. And again, reiterating, I've spoken about this movie before, but just in case you're new to it, Bye Bye Bunny is a story about Bugs Bunny on stage, and it is a musical. And apparently, it wasn't as much of a musical as it's going to be, but it has Bugs Bunny on stage, and he's kind of grown wary of the spotlight. And so he's willing to step down and probably do what rabbits do, relax. And he's going to enjoy his retirement. And Daffy Duck is eager to reclaim that spotlight that is now vacant. So, in the process of this, Daffy is captured, kidnapped, duck-napped, if you will, and the gang has to save him. And they can all, come together and accomplish that really fun adventure. And it feels a little bit like a Muppet movie, which is something one of my previous guests said, and I couldn't agree more. And apparently, this is being turned more into a musical, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's what the showrunner had to say. So the songs by Tom Kitt are incredible. Oh my God, these songs, all under the direction of the kind and clever Brandon Jeffords. He recently directed Vivo alongside Lin-Manuel Miranda. If you are a fan of classic Looney Tunes or Broadway musicals, hopefully both, you are in for such a fun ride. And I highly anticipate this movie, and I need it. I just hope that it sees the light of day. So it's not canceled. It is still active. It's still being worked on. But as of that day, they addressed these specific rumors that were hitting the internet. So Michael goes on to say that he's the head of story, and the facts are that today was a sad day, as much of the crew was let go. We're not canceled yet, and it's a really funny movie because of the writing and the songs. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. And then another report said that they're turning the movie more into a musical. So I'm guessing they're adding more songs. And while they're doing that, they had to, lay off some people before they bring them back on, or hopefully they bring them back on. I mean, we don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen, but it is horrifying to lose your job,
Yes.
especially one of these jobs. It's a high profile movie. And the other caveat to this is that it no longer has a home on HBO Max. So it will have to be shopped around, just like another Looney Tunes movie. So the other Looney Tunes movie that we have to talk about, which is on the verge of not getting completed, unfortunately, is The Day the Earth Blew Up, which I was fortunate enough to cover from Comic-Con, and the title reveal and just the amount of joy it gave people to see this new Looney Tunes movie in production, I think was overwhelming and super positive. And so the fact that we now have this project in sort of a limbo is very terrifying to me because I want it. And Mark Ellis, who was on a previous show, equated this movie to more of a Edgar Wright feel with like Hot, or not Hot Fuzz, but like World's End, where you have this end of the world moment happening. And instead of like a bar crawl, this is more like a bubblegum factory adventure, which is what Porky and Daffy get themselves into. And then they have to inadvertently, probably, save the world from aliens. Hopefully, there's a Marvin the Martian cameo. We'll see. But it has been confirmed that Eric Bauza will be voicing both Porky and Daffy in this. And this is the first Looney Tunes cartoons movie, so the same style that we see in the shorts that we're gonna talk about with the Halloween special. This is the same team. So Pete Brownguard is heading this, and it's got its own unique flair, look, and everything. And the incredible people over at Tonic DNA, it's a Canada company that does some animation for Looney Tunes cartoons, is doing the entire movie, and it just looks incredible. They released a clip of it online, which you can go watch right now. And once you do, if you like it, share it, because the more people that see this, the more involved people are going to be in celebrating it and getting more hand-drawn movies made. And that is a lot, like, that is what people want. That's what we're craving. We want that old school look. I mean, Steffany, you were just saying how you loved how the Witch Hazel look made it feel like the retro with the watercolor. Like, that's what we're going to feel in a theater, hopefully a theater. I really want this to go to theaters. With the Porky and Daffy on this quest that allows them the artistry to present to audiences, kids especially, this new form of animation, whether that's with digital backgrounds and drawn characters or just an overlay of digital paint on top of drawings. I just think it comes off like so much better than just fully CG 3D. So, Steffany, you watched this clip. What did you think of how this movie looks and what we could be in store for if it gets made?
I think that it definitely was playing on to the element of like drawing, hand drawn. And I love that. I love seeing how it was so smooth, and it just made me excited for that because, like I was saying earlier, yeah, CGI is great, but sometimes I think it looks, I'm not, and I no offense to anybody, I know this might be taboo for some people, but it sometimes cheapens things sometimes because you're only focused on how that CGI element may not blend in with other elements of illustrations and animations. I know that's happened to me where I'm watching something and I'm like, that spaceship is CGI, but the rest wasn't. And then like I'm stuck on it. I'm actually clinically OCD, so then I'll be stuck on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is now. And I know it's so silly, but when I saw this, I was like, this is so cool. And I can't wait to see it with color and life. Because when you're talking about like UFO, I was like, yes, I love that. I love UFO stuff in general. I mean, I'm actually really scared. It's one of those things where it scares me. Even cartoon UFO stuff scare me. But then like, but I want to watch it. It's just, I don't know. It's just playing onto that element.
The real stuff scares me, but like having an animated version of that, I think would be really fun. And the aliens look really cool in the promo image they released, which has an alien blowing a bubble, and inside the bubblegum bubble is Daffy and Porky like floating without, suspension. I just, oh my gosh, like the creativity that would go into a movie version of the shorts we already have, I think would be off the charts amazing. And that's what we want. That's what we need. I don't know how anyone in their right mind, Netflix, Roku movies, like whoever wants to pick this up, please do, because there's a lot of potential here. And I know that a lot of people are loving what they're seeing so far in test screenings and everything else that I'm hearing. So I desperately want this movie to be made, but it will definitely be a horrifying day if we get news that it has been canceled.
Yeah, I think definitely sharing it and talking about it does create more of a community. But sometimes I wonder, right? I think about it and it's like, I don't think this is a reasoning, but I could see someone saying like, well, there's not enough conversation online about it. But I think there is. It's
Yeah.
just we're choosing not to see, like people are choosing not to, like these networking marketing companies are choosing not to see it, in my opinion, because it's like if they were able to make a Simpsons movie, and wasn't it, yeah, they made one or two. I can't think of
Just
right
one.
now. But they
One.
made just one, but they made it and like people watched it, and there was definitely a demographic that may not even have grown up watching The Simpsons that went to theaters from what I can recall.
Yeah, I did.
So like there's just absolutely no reason. Also, like as someone that consumes a lot of like social media stuff, there's so much power in like body what's called body language, and I think Looney Tunes has always done a great job of that, and I think that it could even hit a wider audience than what people are even expecting, just because they're so good at getting the attention of people that may not even like speak the native tongue of what that the franchise has, English. Like my parents did not know English very well, and they loved watching Looney Tunes and all that jazz. So I just think
Yeah.
that it could definitely hit such a big audience alone with like the body language, the nostalgia.
A lot of the guests that have already been on the show have actually said the same thing, that their families who do not speak English were able to still laugh along with the characters, with the plots of Looney Tunes. And the reinvigoration of this franchise with the retro style, thanks to Jim Soper and people like Joey Caps, I think just invigorates more people to uh, become familiar with them again, or introduce them to their kids. But the biggest thing for me, and the reason why I want this movie to be in theaters, is because right now HBO Max isn't available in all territories. It's only available in some. So a lot of people who are fans of Looney Tunes have not even watched these shorts. I had to sneeze, sorry. Thank you. They haven't even watched these shorts in their entirety. They've just seen clips online and they're watching from afar. Wouldn't it be nice for them to be able to go to a theater and actually watch an entire movie in this style that is joyous and like a celebration of animation on this level? I think it would be, again, mind-blowing, like you said. So I really want this to go to theaters. I've already signed a petition. I don't know if it will get seen. I'm just
Hey,
doing
whatever
everything
works.
I can. Yes.
Whatever works, you know what I mean? I think, and to add on to that too, because I started thinking about like Studio Ghibli films, right? I
Yeah.
think that those are great too. And I know this is like kind of different topic, but my point is that if films that even across, the world can make it here in the Americas as a big hit, why not something that is more native here and has had major decades upon decades of history with family? Like there's just, you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you're introducing animation from across the world, there's absolutely no excuse as to why you cannot make the excitement around something that is, I think it's definitely a huge pivotal point of pop culture, our culture, American culture, and family generational, nostalgia.
They're icons. Just
Mhm.
hands down, they're icons. Tweety is celebrating his 80th birthday this year, and he's getting murals plastered all over Europe, Germany, like so many places, including here in the States. And it's just a celebration of this character through art. And I just love the fact that people are recognizing him and taking photos, and I'm sharing the photos on the social media. So if you're following the social media, you're definitely seeing them, and you're definitely seeing the celebration come to life. And that's just what I want to continue. That's what I want in theaters. I know Space Jam was, divisive, but ultimately, like, kids loved it. Toy sales were off the charts. So there is a demand. I just hope that, and I really want Looney Tunes cartoons toys. Can you imagine a Witch Hazel toy like that you can have? Like, I've never had a Witch Hazel toy. I don't think they've ever made one. I don't know. If they have,
Yeah.
please put in the comments, like, link me the eBay.
You know what's funny? I even thought of like animatronics. Like I would have that in front of my
Yeah.
house for Halloween, like an animatronic of her, and be like, "Here, I want her to hand out
Yeah.
treats or something." I would totally
That
have
would be
something like
cool.
that.
I do know last year they had the first ever Taz blow up inflatable, and it was Taz in a cauldron. So it was Halloween inspired. But like Taz, okay, cool. I love Taz, but like Witch Hazel, like let's do that one. More
Yeah.
appropriate.
I love Taz too. That was my nickname as a kid because I spoke really fast. I mean, I still do, but people call me Taz.
Amazing. I
So that
actually
was
had
like,
I had
sorry.
I had a schoolmate who drew incredible art. This is the other reason why I was like not even attempting to draw, because I had a friend that drew everything for me. And I was like, can you draw Taz? And he's like, I love drawing Taz. And he drew me this really fun Taz. And he was like in the second grade. And it was like amazing. It was detailed, like as detailed as you would find in the show.
That
And I
is
was
so
like,
cool. I love that.
yeah. I totally forgot about that memory. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on, let's dive into this Halloween Spectacula.
Bugs Bunny's Howl-O-Skreem Spectacula.
What do you know?
It's not just witchful thinking.
It's so nice to have a broom mate.
All your favorite loony characters are creeping it real in a Boo special.
Perhaps you didn't hear me.
If you miss out, you'll be gravely disappointed.
We have Bugs Bunny getting a massage. We have Witch Hazel trying to track down a spider for a potion. And we have Daffy and Porky trying to bury Daffy's best friend.
Daffy, I really don't think we should be here. Really? What makes you say that?
Let's go into it. The first short in this is called Graveyard Goofs, I think. I wrote it down.
Yep, Graveyard Goofs.
Graveyard Goofs, yep. This is directed by Ryan Kramer, an outstanding director on Looney Tunes cartoons. He's done many shorts that I have praised. And this one just continues that trend. You have Porky, who is anxious, scared, paired with Daffy, the wacky Daffy, who is eager to bury this coffin filled with his best friend, who really knew how to light up a room and was his biggest form of entertainment. So you watched this short. What did you think of this short? And were there any gags that stood out?
I was getting very philosophical with this, actually. I don't mean to get ahead of myself, but out of a lot of the ones that I watch, I was like, this is getting me into philosophical mode. Because, okay, so spoiler alert.
Yeah, listeners, we're gonna spoil this. So again, if you have not watched the Looney Tunes Halloween special, go watch it right now and then come back.
Yes. I actually was thinking about the like how society okay, the first joke. Someone said, well, once you're done getting your blue screened boyfriend out of your face, then I can get your attention. And it was like an elderly folk that said that to me. I'm like, my blue screened boyfriend. And I looked up and I'm like, it's my freaking phone. And so when I watched this, I thought of that joke and I busted out laughing. I was like, no way is this now, like, I'm seeing what I heard in real life years ago, and now I'm hearing it again. And I'm like, okay, so in a way, because when I first heard the joke of this elderly man telling me he's, throwing jokes at me, he was a nice person besides of what I'm saying. And I thought about how you're right, in a way, like the thing that we hold so valuable in life is that little blue box in our hand. And it's also the TV, but it's also, it's becoming now condensed into a phone. And I started thinking about like how people will lose morality in the name of this little blue screen in your pocket. And, one of the things that I heard when I got married was people lose morality in weddings and funerals. And so I thought about that too. I'm like, so this is touching the confines of morality when people die, and how people can be very disrespectful in cemeteries, and how people can value technology over people, and how I was getting very into like cybers.
Wow, no, that's fascinating. No, I really like that. That's fascinating. I don't know if the writers were intending that, but I love bringing philosophical ideas into these types of structures, like um, short form stories that can actually look like, if you look at it from a certain way, it goes deeper than the surface level. And having this, you know, mental gymnastic that you took to equate something someone said years ago to a joke that's in this, and it just kind of recontextualizes your entire interpretation of this, as maybe it's not so comedic, or maybe it's now darkly comedic, like even more so than just grave robbing, like, which they actually don't do. But I was expecting.
Yes, I was expecting it too.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to see like this other commentary on how we value technology and media and everything, because it ends with, even Death watching television with them, and them soaking up a scary movie, and then Death having the opposite of what you think he's going to say. I hate scary movies. I just, it's a really fun button, and I think that it does a really good job of ending the episode on a high note. I think that the dialogue in this is really strong in this one, and well, actually, I want to say the dialogue in all three of the new shorts. So that would be all of them except for Mummy Dummy, which had already aired before this. But all of the dialogue in this is really strong, as far as like on a comedy level, on a character level. And I just think Bob Bergen as Porky is just insanely amazing at the stutter and everything that he's putting into Porky in this, because he goes from anxious to worried to scared to mad, angry, like all of the emotions, and just seeing Porky go through that is just incredible on the animation level, on the voice acting level. And then of course you have Eric Bauza just knocking it out of the park as Wacky Daffy. But Wacky Daffy's always like way up here, and Porky has to navigate the in-betweens.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a really fun pairing. You get like the odd couple pairing, which is classic Bob Clampett. That's what he did. He put those two together, and it just was magic. And I think you just continue it here, and then obviously it would be continued in the movie if we ever see that. But yeah, so like
we can get philosophical with it too.
Exactly. No, I'm sure they would. I wouldn't put it past them. So yeah, and again, we have really outstanding backgrounds. The design of the cemetery is incredible. I love the fact that we get to Eat at Joe's joke in this, because we haven't seen one of those and who knows how long.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, the Eat at Joe's. I was like, oh my God, no, this is not here. This is here. Oh my God, that was cool. Yeah, it was great. It was one of my favorites. I think for sure that was one of my favorites.
Yeah. And my last name is Graves, so Sabina was like, "Oh, this is all about you because you're surrounded by Looney Tunes." And I'm like, "Yes, this is for me. Thank you, Looney Tunes cartoons creators."
In advance, thank you.
And the fans, yes, of course. I love this episode, this short. I think that it is insanely creative and a really fun way to kick off this Halloween celebration. Yeah, did you have any other notes on this short?
No, I think that like overall, I think it was funny. And if you want to get philosophical with it, you can, I think. And you're right. I was like, I don't know if they're intending this, but like my brain is going here, like future cyber with it. But I thought it was hilarious. I watching it again, I'm like, I'm 30, and the fact that it could make me laugh, I'm like, this is cute. I love this so much. It just made me happy, and it made me definitely kick off into this Halloween vibe. It was great. I can definitely watch it all day.
It truly is. It's very repeatable. One of the jokes that is not funny is whenever the coffin slides out from under Daffy, and then he face plants, and then Porky goes into his butt. I laugh every time. Just the animation of it is just impeccable. The timing is great.
That was the other thing too, right? Like the scene where they basically broke into a graveyard, right? Yes. And I was just kind of taken back a little bit because I'm like, of course they would do that. Of course they would just slide in through here. And the whole time Daphne's like crying, like, oh my God, my best friend died. And again, I just started thinking about morality and how people will sometimes shine the spotlight. When people die, they'll shine the spotlight on themselves. Like, oh my God, what will I ever do? People like they were not even close to the deceased. So again, that's why I kept thinking about morality and ethics and like then to the reveal of like the TV. I'm like, oh my God, this is just whoa. I need to take a moment now and dissect this.
Yeah, so for those that have seen it or those that have not seen it, I will recap it real quick. Porky and Daffy break into a cemetery with a coffin, and they are carrying, according to Daffy, Daffy's best friend. And Porky is trying to figure out who's in the coffin and not touch anything. And of course, Daffy touches everything, and tombstones get opened, spirits get awoken, and they are haunted. And eventually it comes to light that a television was in the coffin, and Death also appears, voiced perfectly by Fred Tatasciore. And he is like this overbearing, like shadow of a man, or cloaked individual. And he's the one that is a technician, and he fixes the TV for Daffy. So he brings life back into it instead of taking away. And then they sit down at the end of it and, watch a scary movie, as you do in a cemetery, as you just did in the cemetery.
Yeah, definitely. Because don't you think too, by fixing the TV, that also has like the theme of how there's life and death, and how like death can bring life again and rebirth. I don't know. This
No,
again,
absolutely.
continuing the philosophical.
Absolutely. No, I again bring all the philosophical thoughts. I love it. I soak it up. Cool. So moving on from that one, we next have Hex Appeal, which we saw a little snippet of at Comic-Con this year, thanks to the Looney Tunes panel and Warner Brothers presenting a little sneak peek of that short. And we were all wondering what's going to happen to this spider that Witch Hazel is trying to capture for her potion to de-beautify herself. And this short, just on hands down, is one of my favorite shorts that this series has ever put out. It is not only an homage to Chuck Jones, it is an homage, and it takes inspiration from something that Chuck Jones took inspiration from, which was Ronald Searle, who was a British cartoonist and did a lot of minimalist art and a lot of wavy like hair lines and everything, like really like imagine you get hit in the face with a frying pan and then like how your hair would like just jolt out. Okay, that's this level of attention to detail and like style that this guy had, and Chuck Jones loved that guy. And this was the same time that he was making the Witch Hazel cartoons, and so he injected a lot of that into the designs. You can definitely see it with the cat, which gets put into a little milk jar, and then the milk jar breaks, and then the whiskers shoot out. It's just a phenomenal short. Steffany, what did you love about this one? What did you take away, and how great was Candy Milo as this character?
I loved it. I think that, you're like everything you just said right now regarding the animation, how it's so simple. Like when you just said like the inspiration from the other animator, I didn't even know that. I was like, oh my God, yes, exactly, because of the simple, it's so simple but beautiful, and like the little hair strands. So I did notice that it was just like there's so much emotion in spaces within the animation that you couldn't even think of. Yeah, okay, yes, exactly. I love stuff like that too, because I think that you don't think about, when you think of emotions, you don't think necessarily that it's the hair, or like even like when people sweat or like little things like that in animation, you don't realize it until you actually physically see it, and you're like, yes, it's so simple but it's so genius. And so when she was like, okay, I want to look uglier, and she starts making this potion and everything, and I was like, interesting, so she's gonna make a potion to make, okay, so I'm like following it. And then I think that it's so funny because she just manifested her own demise with the spider and like fighting the spider. And like, I was a huge Tom and Jerry person too
Sure.
when I was a kid. And so like it just made me think of that too. I remember my mom loved Tom and Jerry. But yeah, so I think I was thinking about all of these like little elements of things of like chasing something small, but then it becomes bigger and then it goes after her and then she manifested her own demise. And I was like, oh my God, I thought she was actually going to do something. I thought it was going to be like an explosion of the potion of the concoction and that was going to make her ugly or something like that. And then it's like, no, it's the spider. It beats her up. And she gets what she wanted though. And I just thought that was so funny. And it plays on this like morbid, like humor, like dark humor in a way.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
it's like, because realistically, if someone beat you up, it's not
Yeah.
humorous, but it was humorous in a sense of like, wow, the dark humor, she's getting beaten up. And then she looks in the mirror and she gets what she wanted. And it was that one cynical twist of her, like getting what she wanted that made it very funny. And those are little things that you don't think about in humor. And I think that's kind of lost too nowadays, that little subtle
Yeah.
thing that you don't see as often. I think people make it more obvious to joke and throw all those puns. This was like that very subtle dark humor that I feel dark humor is very lost too. That's another take, but that I saw it in that.
It's an appropriate take and something that
Mm.
I really connect with the new Looney Tunes cartoons brand. Like they really dive deep into presenting dark humor in this way. And yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it with Mummy Dummy. Like that is just dark humor to the nth degree. But this had so many fun moments. You have the line about a brewmate. It's so nice to have a brewmate. You have the spider. Whenever she zooms up on her broom, the spider has made a web and then is controlling her and making her hit herself with the broom that she was just trying to use to get the spider. You have just these really funny moments that just build on each other. And there's a really funny pun when she's going through her wands. Oh, by the way, I just love that she uses a freeze wand because I love like the animation of freezing things. I don't know. Big Sub-Zero fan. Mr.
I
Freeze.
like Frozen Freeze. Yeah, I like freezing characters.
But so she has a freezing wand, but before that it says Saskatchewan, which is a really funny pun that Michael Rucco added, one of the animators and storyboard artists. And just the line work in this just leaps off the screen, and it's so contextualized that I've never seen a short that is so contained, but also so packed with humor in the artistry, in the background, in the foreground, in the characters. Just everything is incredible. And I tip my hat to Alex Kerwan, who is the genius who is like, I want a Witch Hazel short in this, and I want it to be Witch Hazel centric. So there are no other characters that she's interacting with from Looney Tunes canon. She's interacting with her own world that is that's happening around her. And I just think that was a super genius move, and it's really paying off because I've heard nothing but praise from end to end on this short.
I didn't even think about that. You're right. She was in her own world. You're right. Because going from the previous short, which was the the Graveyard Goofs to this, you're right. Because obviously you're seeing both energies in the first short, but then you see, and then it transitions to this and you're like, okay, so she's interacting by herself. And it just goes to show though, like how strong of a character to have so much going on in that short, and it was entertaining the whole time. Like I know once did I look away on my phone or anything, I was like glued to that screen because I was like, okay, what next? When is she gonna get the spider? Wait, she's like zapping things now. What is going on here? So again, I think that was great because you're right, it shows how strong and how much weight this character can have. So
truly. And I'm going to give praise to the team for this. I'm just a fan, and I noticed, and I was happy about it. But when the spider falls into the growth serum, he comes out and he has this drunk hiccup, and I was like, that sounds a lot like Mel Blanc. And it was revealed that Mel Blanc the audio was actually used from the archives and put into this short, and it was written in the story notes that they wanted to use the Mel Blanc sound of the hiccup, something that Mel Blanc was known for back in the day, and they did it. They injected Mel Blanc, and the short is better for it. So you have a little bit of history with this short as well, being injected back into something modern. So again, just elevating the entire thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God. Good catch.
oh, thank you. But I give it all to the artists and the team over at Warner Brothers Animation, and the team headed by Pete Browngarden, just everybody over there. It's a joy to watch these. I wish we had more coming out. So far this year, we've only had the Valentine's Day special and the Halloween special. So we need more. We definitely need more. And I have recommendations to keep this Halloween celebration going this year. If you want some recommendations for classic shorts or shorts that have come out already in this series that you may have missed. So before I get there, let's continue on. And we have Trouble.
In for Trouble?
In for Trouble, yes, thank you. In for Trouble is directed by David Gemmell. David Gemmell also directed Hex Appeal. So shout out to David Gemmell. And so In for Trouble is akin to the classic Chuck Jones short, Cause for Alarm, which had Porky and Sylvester in a haunted castle. And they took some inspiration from that and applied it here. And you have a wonderful short, all-timer, I would say, where you have a serial killer on the loose, and he has just killed the not too different than Psycho, where he's killed somebody working at a hotel and takes over the duties of the clerk. And Porky and Sylvester arrive. Sylvester's the only one seeing what's happening. He sees the news clip of the escaped convict. He sees the dead body of the previous clerk, and he sees all the attempts of murder in this hotel, or motel rather. And Porky is completely oblivious, which adds to the comedy. And it's just, the timing is impeccable. Obviously the animation is impeccable. But yes, you just watched In for Trouble. Wonderful name. Steffany, what did you think of this short?
Yes, I definitely was thinking of Psycho immediately when I saw this. And even like the colors, I actually thought the fact that the killer was a different color, like green, I was thinking of just like the undertones of like sin, because I've heard before that sometimes there's like the 7 deadly sins and this stuff. So I was like, okay, so green, I know there's envy, there's like different I guess like I got all philosophical with it again. I'm like getting all philosophical.
It's all good, it's welcome.
Open I was thinking, I guess I was thinking of like 7 deadly sins, and for some reason, I know that there's probably different sins, I'm sure there's different inputs and they're welcomed. But for me, the most thing that I thought was that he was not the same color as like the other humans in that universe, I guess, or from what I had seen in all of these. And so green, I'm like, interesting. Okay. So you are obviously evil. Green can just stand for evil, and I just, I kept laughing because again, it played with the dark humor of it, because we're so used to have seen these classic, especially if you love horror movies and classics, you're used to have seen, the whole hotel thing, Bates Motel. And so I was thinking about all these classical movies, but then it took a spin and it made me see it in a different way, I suppose, of how oblivious people are sometimes when there's an institution that is meant for something. People be oblivious for so many different reasons. And it's not just like, oh, no one's going to kill me, but it's also the idea that like if you go to a hotel, people don't check for certain things that are dangerous in hotels, like bed bugs, something very simple. Yeah. But I was thinking about all these things that people do. And, even now, like there's a lot of scary stories with like Airbnbs and hotels and bringing an extra lock in your house or in your hotel if you're traveling alone, or, precaution to take. And none of the things that obviously Porky did.
It's good advice though.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about that too, like how it's still playing, like, yes, we can talk about the classic stuff and how it's playing homage to that. And it's, making a funny, like, reconvention of that. But I was enjoying the fact that in a way it's still relevant though, besides the fact that it's a horror themed, because people are always not checking things that they should in hotel rooms. I don't know. That's where I was getting it. And plus, like, he was green. I'm like, see, I think the colors mean something here. I feel like they do mean something here.
Well, I love the green whenever it's shown in Porky and Sylvester's eyes when they first get there and they're silhouetted and it's just their shadows, but their eyes are green. Like, I think that was it was such a unique choice, but also it elevated the suspense because they're going somewhere that is a little off. So I think that definitely added, and I think there's always something to look forward to in what colors people choose for the characters or for backgrounds or anything like that. Definitely always keep an eye out for colors. One more thing I wanted to mention, that the killer's name is Alabaster Cuckoo Kerwan. Kerwan is the last name of the supervising animation director on this show. So I thought it was really funny that they added him in that sense to like pay homage to that as the classics order, put in Jones or Freeling or somewhere like that. So I thought that was really funny too.
That is so neat. I didn't even know that.
Supervising producer, rather. Yeah, Alex Kerwan, supervising producer, got added to the naming of that character. So that was fun. So that will wrap up the In for Trouble, INN for Trouble. I loved it. It was fantastic. This special like really fired on all cylinders. Like, I can't think of any short that was not on the same level as the others. I thought they were all really strong, including the one that we're about to talk about, which is a repackaged short from June of 2021 called Mummy Dummy. This one also directed by David Gemmell and has Bugs Bunny mistake ancient Egypt for Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas! Boy, I've been looking forward to this vacation for months. At Vero's Deluxe Resort and Casino, our quality service and luxurious accommodations will leave you so satisfied you'll be Tutankhamun back for more. Yes, sirree, that's for me.
Because he's terrible at making those left turns at Albuquerque, and he always gets lost, so you'll never know where he's going to end up. So he winds up in Old Egypt, and he uncovers a tomb that is housing a haunted mummy. And in doing so, he is also putting himself in a lot of danger that he will soon find out about. The one detriment to this short that I will say that I've seen online is that Bugs Bunny isn't ahead of the game on this one. He never realizes the danger that he's in, which Bugs Bunny is usually like ahead of that. But I think this one works because you have Bugs Bunny playing off the danger in such a way that this mummy can do no harm to him, essentially, even whenever he is being ripped and torn. And that clip has been shared online without the punchline. The punchline is Bugs Bunny wakes up from that, stretches his back, and is like, "Oh, thank you for the massage." And like, that is the joke. And if you don't see that, then you're not getting the full essence of Bugs Bunny in that moment. But it is brilliantly colored. Like that, the level of like shadow depth is astronomically like gorgeous to look at. And just the fact that you have Bugs Bunny in this situation, and it cracks me up to no end to see him survive this, like he's put into the ringer literally for going up against a monster he's never seen before. He doesn't know what to expect, and he has just the best amount of luck to get through it. And yeah, like his reactions are what cracks me up, like his PU to the food after he like pulls out the intestines and everything that he mistakes for a buffet, but it's really one of those areas that they use for remains of the people that were there before. Or like it's like some kind of ritual thing. I love the fact that he, threw that in the mummy's face, and then the mummy's like vomiting. It's just, it's gross out humor, but I think it works, and it's really funny and unique to this show. So was this your first time watching this? Did you not watch it in June?
I did not watch it in June,
Okay.
but you hit some really strong points that I noticed too.
Yeah.
Like Bugs Bunny, it felt like he was a different character,
Mhm.
honestly. And so I was very taken back by it because I was watching it. I'm like, okay, so he seems a little bit off and not ahead of the game. And
Yeah.
I did see though the dark humor with it, because I kind of thought it was funny when the mummy was ready to attack him and he thinks he's at the buffet and he starts shoving all the organs in his mouth. And then I'm just like, oh my God, what is happening here? And
Very dark.
yeah. And so it was like, okay, so whose organs are these? Like, I don't know. I'm just like thinking of all these things, right? And I'm like, okay, so you're saying he looks like trash? And people say that, like they use that slang though, like you look like garbage or that's garbage. And
Right.
I'm like, so I was like, oh, is that what it's trying to say? Is it like physically giving us that joke that we use all the time in slang? So I started thinking about that. And then also, you're right. Now that you were talking about the whole thing about like Bugs Bunny and how there's the feedback received on the character and how this was portrayed throughout the short, I started to think, I'm like, well, maybe he really needed that vacation then, I guess, because he was not ahead of the game. I'm
He
like,
was
there
off
you go.
that day.
Yeah, he was off that day. That's why he went to Vegas and didn't end up in,
Exactly.
Vegas. But yes, the scene where like the mummy's just like finally gets at him and starts trying to like rip him up, and you're hearing all the cracking and everything, and the scene turns dramatically red, and you're like, oh my God, what is happening? Like I actually did gasp. I'm like, I was like, what is happening? What is it? Actually got me. I
They
was
went
like very
there.
gullible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
They really
and
went
then
there.
he's like, okay, I feel better now. I'm like, oh my God, that was a troll. That was trolling me. So I think this one just took me out of my like what I was expecting more than the others. I think because again, with the other ones, I'm like, okay, this is funny, this is cute, this is great. But this one, I actually experienced like from laughter to like I was gasping. It took me there. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good thing though, is to bring out strong emotions and things. That we don't always experience, because then there's more room to talk about it. Like, why did they go that far?
Right.
What are they trying to say? I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, what are they trying to say with this? This one, I think there's more to it. I do believe there's way more meaning to this. I just don't know. I don't know.
Sure, sure. I think obviously you're interpreting these on a much deeper level than they may have even intended for them to
Mhm.
come up with. But there's always layers. There's always something to find, and I think that's really fascinating. I would take another look at this one just to see if, by calling the mummy trash and like having him as the disposal, and then Bugs using his foot to like smash down the food and it's getting stuck on his rabbit's foot and coming back, it's really wild, it's really bizarre. But yeah, it is trying to say something. I don't have my finger on the pulse of that just yet, but I would say Bugs is definitely one carrot short of a carrot cake in this one, and that makes it a lot of fun. One of the moments that I really love is whenever at the end he shoots the mummy across Egypt into one of those big tombs. Like it's the tomb that has a head. What are those called? Like
The pyramids.
it's like a
The
pyramid,
pyramid.
yeah, with a head on it. And it gets shot into the butt of the pyramid, and then the face goes, ooh. I just love that moment. It's phenomenal. So that's two shorts and two butt jokes that I thought were really funny.
Yeah, like I think that's what I was saying. It went from like the ending of it was like the nice cherry on top, because like
Yeah.
as we were getting towards the end, it was like again that it did feel almost graphic though. It did. I
Oh
again I
no, it
think
was
you're
very graphic. It was very graphic.
yeah, and again, because like the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, okay, I know, Steffany, you need to calm down. It's probably not this philosophical, but I get there with these cartoons. I think it's funny because when I was a kid, I didn't think anything of it, but now I'm like, no, I feel like there's like so many meanings of things, and maybe because like I've been seeing the memes online and
Okay.
how people like apply it to real life. I'm almost wondering if like there might be something in my psyche over time that I'm like, okay, so I've been seeing these memes like since like the early 2000s. Here we are, I'm watching this, and I'm like, am I slowly? But I think as adults, we tend to look at cartoons and things so differently as well. So it's always refreshing to visit it with adult pair of lens versus when you were a kid and you're like, I remember seeing the scene, I thought nothing of it. And then an adult comes, they're like, oh, this is too graphic for children. But kids did not see it that way whatsoever.
Which happened a
um,
lot,
mhm,
back in the day. And also, when Looney Tunes were in theaters and they were made by adults, they were not for kids. They were not intended for kids. They were intended for all audiences, but mainly audiences that would be in on the joke that they were
mhm,
parodying or making fun of, or taking the salt out of. Like those kind of moments don't really translate to a kid because they don't know the context. I
mhm,
literally just came across a thread over the weekend of people showing off like gifts from Scary Movie and the whole like what's up scene, and kids, younger, I guess younger Twitter users, going, what movie is this? What's this from? And having no context of the movie, the Budweiser commercial, like none of it. And I actually commented and I was like, that actually is why Looney Tunes gets away with more things than other franchises, because they're parodying other things.
mhm,
And you then, like, after years and years, and the things that they were parodying go away, you just equate those jokes to Looney Tunes, and then they
mhm,
become even smarter and they age really well. Some
mhm.
of them, there are issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
but
I mean, definitely.
like on the comedic level, a lot of those jokes, um, they are now praised for being original, whereas they were actually parodying something else. And
Yeah.
this one, I actually don't think this parodies anything. I think this is wholly
Mhm.
original. I can't think of anything that this
Oh,
would
well,
parody,
yeah.
unless you can think of something.
I don't No,
Yeah,
I don't think I can.
yeah.
No. Wow.
I had Joey Cabs on the show, and he said whenever he saw the storyboards for it, he's like, "Whoa, you guys are really going for it." I don't know if that's going to translate, um,
Yeah.
but like having that injected into something like this, I think definitely separates it from the family affair, from what you're used to in a cartoon, and you're like, so where do I categorize Looney Tunes cartoons? Is it adult animation? Is it kid-friendly animation? Is it family-friendly animation? Because my family watched this short and they were like, that's disturbing. So, I don't know. But I love it. They make it for me. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall but I've always felt like Looney Tunes has always pushed the bar for
Yes.
things and so like when I did watch the Mummy Dummy, because out of all of them, this one was the one that was like, it gave me mixed feelings at first. I'm not gonna lie. Like it took me a moment to like look at it. I mean, I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy it because I did enjoy it. It was funny, and I'm always gonna enjoy these things where it's like, hey, I laughed. I'm okay with that. And but this one did take me a little bit back, and I think because they were basically trying to push and be outside of the box than what people would normally expect, almost, especially for like hardcore fans, I feel like too. um and so I think that if we're talking about it and we're feeling mixed emotions, I think it did its job though, all in all, because I think even back then, well, I feel like this whole franchise in general has always left people with mixed emotions and it's always been
Yeah.
controversial. So in a way, this is kind of resetting that wheel again.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, pushing the boundary on what we accept as like a children's animated cartoon is something that, again, this franchise does really well. And they
Mm.
also do parody really well. Um, one of my recommendations, if you want to keep going on this Halloween inspired short, series is one of the shorts from the first season, which is called Boo Appetit, and that has Tweety and Sylvester going at each other, and there are Ghostbuster references and homages in that. So you have another layer to it. You not only have Tweety haunting Sylvester, but you have these really fun 80s references to go along with it. All the way down to Tweety saying, "I ain't afraid of no putty." So it's just, adding to the layer. There's another one that I would recommend, which is from that same first season, called Big League Beast. That one just hands down is one of my favorite all-time Looney Tunes cartoon shorts. It almost hits the classics for me, and they fired with like such strong out of the gate animation, voice acting. It's just an amazing short, so I highly recommend that one as well. And yeah, just keep it going. Like, watch these shorts, talk about these shorts. I mean, that's what we're here to do. And so Steffany, overall, what did you think of this short, or this special rather? And would you continue watching these shorts?
Yeah, I love them. I think that it was for me, it was like revisiting my childhood, and I feel like it's always nice to go back and revisit that part of yourself. Especially for me, because I'll be honest, I have not been watching TV as much as I would like, or just having my own leisure time. And especially like since I moved out here. And so this was like a nice, like my own self-care day. And I would totally watch this. I'm like, I can't believe, I'm glad that you recommended it, because I would love to see more Halloween stuff. I feel like if anything, these shorts prove that they can take you back in time and get you to want to more of it, because society is always changing too. So I would love to see more parodies of modern day, things. Like, I feel like you can never run out of those things. Never. So I would love to see more of that. I feel like Halloween too, in my opinion, Halloween is not dying off, but it's missing that element, that like macabre, like dark humor element, that campy element to it. And I definitely think this could definitely revitalize that and make it more exciting, especially with like the first two, like Hex Appeal and like the Graveyard Goofs, because I seriously started thinking about like morbid, macabre things, but I was laughing at it too at the same time. And I have not had that feeling in a very long time.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm really glad that this came out this year, and I wish it was longer, but like, we can extend it. We can have recommendations from the earlier ones that are spooky. But yeah, I thought that the feels that you get with this made me feel like I was like, 10 years old again, watching Looney Tunes, or watching one of the classic Halloween specials of the time. And Cartoon Network did a lot of those. I just, I concur entirely with you, that I miss that feeling.
Because I'm thinking about what people are hyped about now, and I've seen people like cartoons, and it's like, because I think like Monster High, and I'm not ripping on that or anything like that. I'm just saying that that's what I'm seeing, different outlets, and that's cool. But again, for my generational, like for what I grew up with, I want to see like the dark humor done right, because that's also a missing element. And I definitely think this is a great way to revitalize certain elements that we grew up with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some recommendations for classic shorts are Transylvania 6500 with Bugs Bunny and Count Blood Count. I just posted a clip of that one on the Instagram. And Broomstick Bunny, which is one of the first Witch Hazel appearances. And you have Broomstick Bunny, you have Witch Hazel against Bugs Bunny, and that's always fun. So yes, that will do it. I do have some clever little Easter eggs that they hid in the special, which at the very beginning, you see the silhouettes of some characters. You see Mr. Hyde from Hyde and Hare, which is a short by Friz Freleng, and that is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde going up against Bugs Bunny. You have Monster Tweety from Hide and Go Tweet. And you have Witch Hazel, which introduces the title of Bugs Bunny's Howl-O-Skreem, Spectacula. So it was really fun all around. I love the animation. I cannot wait to watch this again, and with more people. And yeah, I just highly recommend it, and keep on watching cartoons. Steffany, where can people find you online?
You can find me Steffany_strange on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, those are my main 3 platforms right now.
Cool. Thank you again for being on the show. This was a lot of fun. You can find the podcast on YouTube, on Twitter. I have OFC This Means Pod over there, and then This Means Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. I've also launched revamped version of the Patreon, and what's going to happen is on the Patreon, if you subscribe, you'll get a newsletter for the month that we are about to be in. And then it will have all of the shows that I have planned along with their guests. And then I will also have a show for that week dropping on Thursdays, which is the normal day that this goes up. And then the following week will be the normal release, which will be on Mondays. So we're changing things up a bit, trying to, recoup some of the costs, trying to get better mics, better areas to record in, some of the things that I can definitely utilize, and a camera so I can have more video content coming your way. So anyways, this is all to help you and me a little bit, but I want to keep going. I want to keep talking about Looney Tunes, and this is one of the most viable ways for me to do it. So this modern day and age is all about Patreon. So let's give that a go. So with that being said, that's not all. Have a good day.
Thank you.